zip up. Are we on? We are. Hello, Susan. I am trying to stay warm. I've got my warmest hat on now, which does alarm me a little bit, like I said, because I don't have any more. The only thing I have left is warmer gloves. They're a little bit hard to paint in those. So we'll see. Hello, Peachy. Hello, Nicholas. And I am, what can you guys see? Oh, good, you can see. So here's my phone that I'm painting from mostly now. I can blow it way up to see details. After I got back from supper, I walked 2 blocks down the street to get some fried chicken fingers and other health food items, like French fries. When I came back, I looked at my painting with fresh eyes and recognized my mistake immediately, which was that, not counting this building, all the other buildings were too tall, too high. So I just had to, I kind of groaned and said, oh, you know, I don't feel like doing this, but sucked it up, and it didn't take long, really. I redrew all the buildings except that one about 1.25 inches shorter than they were. And then the drawing clicked into place. So I'm fairly comfortable, happy with the drawing. It's accurate enough now. By which I mean it's accurate. I don't mean like I'm just wimping out. I mean it's correct. Close enough to correct. And so I did another whole layer of drawing, mostly in purple, which you can still see here and there. And now I'm doing probably my last layer of white, I think. And I'm having serious second thoughts about my plan to stay out here till midnight. Part of the reason I was thinking that way, I think, is because that's what I did on New Year's Eve, right? New Year's Eve was essentially the same painting, same location, same time of day or night, same scene. And on New Year's Eve, of course, I was here past midnight. Of course, I had a lot of company. It was just about the same temperature too, not quite this cold, maybe 5 degrees warmer than this. It was a chilly night. So that's part of what had me thinking tonight, oh yeah, I'll just do what I did, do like I did on New Year's Eve, just go down and paint till midnight. But as I said, I'm having serious second thoughts. And if I'm already having second thoughts and it's not even 9 o'clock, then, you know, unless something really extraordinary happens. I'm not hungry, that's good. parts of me are cold. You wonder which parts. Not going to tell you. No. By the way, here's a piece of equipment. Here, I'll show it to you real quickly. One of the most important pieces of equipment for plein air painting is that mat right there. It's one of those fat, squishy, they have a name for them. Leg fatigue mats or something like that. Anyway, I have discovered over the years. Now, I guess if you're one of those plein air painters that finishes your painting in 20 minutes and wham bam and you're out of here, then I guess this wouldn't apply. But if you're crazy like me and you stand out here for a long time, any mat, as a matter of fact, not like just a rug, an area rug, which I also have underneath the easel, and I buy those pretty regularly. I use them up, wear them out. But very good for cold, because the concrete underneath this mat, of course, is freezing cold. And even though I've got good, believe it or not, Dr. Scholl's shoes on, the Dr. Scholl's shoes would not do the job, would not be adequate if I was standing on concrete. So just for what it's worth, the little pad thing, very, very helpful. Now I'm wondering if I should do another layer of acrylics on this one. I really feel like I should. Laziness is telling me that this is good enough. But diligence is telling me I should do. So how do you know when it's time to switch to oil? I've given this formula many times. It's pretty simple. When the drawing is pretty much correct, when the values are close to correct, and when the colors are close to correct, and when it's almost, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be pretty close, then you can go to oils. And the last color, if you will, before oils is always white. So I just did white. That means that I could go to oils now. But I've got a little bit, I'm afraid, not really afraid, but I'm afraid I've got a little bit too much white. All of this in the sky and all of this down here, and then little bits elsewhere, means the value is not really, nope, I just talked myself into it. Okay, so I'm not going on to oils yet. I'm going to do another layer of glazes. The other thing I noticed too, right when I was talking about the area that's too light, my darks are not dark enough either. And all this needs to be darker, this, and some down here. So, another layer of glazes, and then after that, of course, another layer of white. So 2 more layers in acrylics before I go to oils. But I really have to wait for this white to dry. And it is not dry. And it's not even drying very fast out here in this chilly air. By the way, this is going to be a blue-ish sky. Right now it looks like a exploding sunset. But that's underpainting. It's not going to be a pretty, it's going to be an evening blue sky, not a daytime blue sky, but blue nonetheless. Twilight blue. Oh, and I forgot to do. I do have my chalkboard. Here, can you see it barely? Daily Art Adventure number 822. A little bit late. I forgot it. I completely forgot I got it already. Okay, while I wait for my painting to dry, I can read you guys Uncle's cracking jokes, evidently. You guys are chatting up a storm. Hang on just a second. I am going to sit down. I can move you guys. So painting looks warmer than you. That's exactly correct, Susan. Hello, Nicholas. Does the cold weather affect the consistency of the acrylics? No. Well, I'm sure it would, but I've never painted that cold. It would have to be, I would think, considerably below zero. I mean, below 0 centigrade, below 32, below freezing. But no, at close to freezing, it's never been a problem. Does the cold weather affect the consistency of the acrylics? No. Well, I'm sure it would, but I've never painted that cold. Uncle violated some rule. Hello, Deborah. Good to have you back. Uncle 60's in Instagram jail. Cool hat. Oh, I don't think so. It's pretty corny, but it's warm. Yes, it is glazing time. No, nobody messed with my stuff. Thanks for asking, Light Blue. It's perfectly fine. All the white at the bottom of the buildings, yes. Poor floodlights. Whoops. Ooh. Yeah, the answer is it's lights at the street level. Here, I'll point you down the street here in just a second. And forgive me, I'm going to plug in the power to my phone for a while, even though I'm afraid we're going to get static. Because if I don't... Oh, we are getting static. Darn. But if I don't do that, you guys will disappear on me. So, all right, so Susan, I think it was somebody asked about the light at the bottom of the buildings. Ouch! That was an ouch. I'm going to point you down the street. There, it's that stuff. Street lights, car lights, window lights, and really about as much as anything, it's like floodlights on the bottom floor of the buildings. Does that make sense? So So all of that stuff is what I want to capture largely. And then there's reflection in the wet street. That was one thing I noticed about the city paintings that I looked at yesterday on Instagram, or today, I mean. Almost all of them. Oh, good. I'm glad the static isn't too bad, Susan. Thank you. Had wet streets. It reminded me of this expression that we all like paintings with wet streets. We all like to see paintings of other people caught in the rain. We just don't like to be caught in the rain ourselves. I think that's so funny. It's romantic. Well, it's actually, I believe it's more than romantic. It has to do with humans, penchant for living near water, and it also has to do with our pleasure. What? Something just came on my computer. Wow, that's disturbing. On my old phone, I mean, like a virus, malware kind of thing just opened up. All right, I'm going to try to paint on top of this white without re-wetting it too much, because it's really not dry yet, which means I'll be smearing it around, which is not my preferred mode of operation, but I'm tired of waiting. and the cold atmosphere is encouraging me in my impatience. Okay, here's a cute little detail. I'm doing this painting for the people who live in this apartment right here. I'm serious. That's who I'm doing this painting for. I would turn your camera around and show you that building. Maybe later. But I'm too busy painting. They said they would leave their lights on for me. Isn't that fun? This is a point at which I really do wish that I had a bottle of acrylic medium with me. I normally, that is to say, always carry one with me, but I didn't today. So evidently that always word is aspirational. I try to always have a jar of a bottle of medium with me. All right, enough of the orange yellow on the lights. Now I'm going to open my purple back up. Purple, red, blue, and some green. Let's live dangerously a little bit here. Dan walking on the wild side, opening up his green. Okay, every time I do something like that, I think, all right, there's a whole bunch of you guys out there that say, I wish I could get looser. And I understand that. And I understand the struggle too, but then I want to say, okay, here's how you get looser. Just do this. all the blood drains from their faces, and they say, "Oh, I don't want to get loose that bad." That badly for you English majors. And I have certainly made a mess of this painting, haven't I? Wow. That is an unusual mess. For this late stage in the process, in fact, it's such a mess, I think I'm actually going to rag some out a little bit. So that's an unusual strategy as well. Looks good though. Having to take my gloves off for one reason or another. All right, now I'm closing up all of my acrylics except for the white. I'm positive this time. After this next layer of white, I'll be ready to go to oils. So it's possible I might do some pencil in there too, after I do the white, I think. Or should I do it before? No, after. And the transition from acrylic to oil is indeed the point at which I'll decide whether to stay out longer or not, because that would be a natural transition point. Yes. Oh, sorry, I'm just chuckling at all of your comments. Uncles mostly, I guess. A resident court jester. Uncle Horatio. Have we zoomed in? Yeah. All right, so last layer of white, last layer of acrylics. There's a big tree, actually a whole row of trees going down this street here that we're looking at, but it is the first tree in the row is the most prominent. All the other trees are sort of just subsumed in behind this one big one in the front. And I'm essentially doing sky holes then right now with white, and it's at least the third time, maybe it is the third time that I've painted this tree in the negative. So I've painted it in the positive at least 3 times, probably 4, and I've painted it in the negative, that is to say, sky hole type things. Now, this is the 3rd time, I believe. Which was really a good strategy, good tactic, good practice for painting trees. And Everybody knows about sky holes, right? If you can take a lesson on sky holes at the moment, it is do sky holes in layers, in series. In other words, go dark light, light being the sky holes and dark being the branches or the foliage or whatever, the limbs in between. To paint a tree, do it in layers and go dark light, dark light, dark light. That's a much better way to give the impression of a tree, of course, without caving into tongue painting every single leaf, like Bob Timberlake does, and other people. Paul Detlefsen, he's an artist, popular in probably the 50s, maybe the 60s, I don't know. And the only reason I know his name is because I like doing jigsaw puzzles. And when I was a kid, we had a jigsaw puzzle of a painting by Paul Detlefsen, S-E-N, I think, Detlefsen. And he was also, like Bob Timberlake, you paint every single leaf in the tree. He couldn't leave well enough alone. Sorry. I'm not even sure that makes sense. It's really probably a very bad joke. I didn't want to think about it real hard before I said it. But you can still find them online. And yes, he painted every leaf. It's sort of like, bucolic, is that the word? I think it might be. Peaceful farm scenes, is that bucolic? Sort of Thomas Kincaid-ish, sentimental, romantic, Americana stuff. Okay, so having made that comment about how to paint trees in layers, dark light, dark light, dark light, dark light, well, forget that. That's a good formula for painting everything, anything. And I guess I mean anything that's variegated, anything that's busy, has details, light and dark in it. Don't paint like Paul Detlefsen, bless his heart. Instead, paint in layers. Of course, all of this is predicated on the assumption that you're interested in real painting, as opposed to the hyper-realistic stuff, which is a good thing to go through. Good to go through that season of life where you want to paint realism or super realism or something. So every layer, theoretically, covers up fewer acres, quote unquote. Fewer square inches. Using fun language, I'm calling it acres instead of square inches. Every layer covers up a little bit less than the one before. Now that requires a little bit of explanation. We do two kinds of layers. Glazes, which are big brushes and covering broad areas, and then in between the glaze layers are drawing layers. Like right now I'm drawing, this is a drawing layer. That is, it's small brushes, it's fairly careful, its details, right? So that's what I call a drawing layer. So within that distinction then, ignore the glazing layers. Then my statement is true. The statement that each layer of the painting process covers up fewer acres than the previous one. So the most obvious application of that in this case is the white that I'm doing now is not going to cover up as many acres. And forgive me for being silly and continuing with that picturesque language. This is not going to cover as many acres as the last white layer. Okay? And that continues throughout the entire painting process. So accepting the glazes. The glazes are completely different. When it comes to glazes, every layer covers essentially the entire canvas. Okay. I just realized I had missed a series of streetlights there. And streetlights receding down the street is a great way to indicate space or depth in a painting. I'm inclined at this moment, my painting is, this painting is quite pretty, is it not? It's quite attractive, is it not? It is. Shut up. That was the uncle who said, no. No, I'm kidding. No, some smart aleck who wants to be contrarian said, no, stop bragging about your own painting. It's not that pretty, really. All right. So other than the contrarians among us, I'm going to contend that I'm going somewhere with this. It's not about bragging or boasting or anything. I'm going to contend that this painting is reasonably attractive. And there's always a little bit of surprise in me when a painting starts getting attractive. That is not an exaggeration. There's always a little bit of surprise in me. And that's the way I feel right now. It's like, huh, oh, would you look at that? It's actually starting to look kind of nice. And again, that is quite the antithesis of bragging. It's more like I'm more surprised than anybody. There's a real grain of truth to that. The only exception being that it's happened so many times that, one should be getting used to it by this time. 10,000 paintings later. But I want to make a point. It's not one that I haven't made before, but I think it's worth making it, especially at this moment when I'm feeling this way about this painting. Again, I'm feeling like, oh, well, would you look at that? This thing might actually turn into a nice painting. And a couple things I want to say about that. One is that I think that good painting should be more comparable to the process of discovery instead of creation in the, like if you're the creator There's a right and a wrong way to create. And forgive me, I'm stumbling over my words here, but try to get it out and make sense. The wrong way to create, I think, is to turn into the potentate of paint. The wrong way to paint is the autocratic, domineering, controlling, I am the lord of the paint, and my painting shall turn out. Might be getting a little late out here, folks. What I'm trying to draw a distinction between is the painting process, and again, clearly many people disagree with me on this because many people do beautiful, beautiful, super realistic paintings. But that's sort of what I'm arguing against. Good painting is the product. Here's what I say very often. Good painting is the result, the product, the byproduct. That's even a better word. Good painting, a good painting, is the byproduct of good process. It's not something that you make happen. A better description, in my opinion, rather than forcing a painting into goodness, excellence, quality, is our job as artists, I think, is to set up an environment, set up a process, set up the condition in which a good painting can emerge more or less on its own. I mean, it feels like on its own. Am I making sense? That's how it feels. And I think that's how the good painting process should feel. It should feel not like I dominated this canvas. That's appropriate in a way. When it comes to me versus the canvas, truly, the canvas doesn't stand a chance. I am going to win this war, at least I expect to. War. This battle, this titanic struggle of the ages between me and the canvas. Although, truth be known, sometimes the canvas does win, right? And I do a lousy painting, but hopefully not too often. But again, I think it's better to create up a situation, a set of circumstances, an environment in which a good painting will accidentally emerge. And I know I'm using kind of crazy, picturesque, or at best metaphysical at worst language, because I'm trying to describe the indescribable, or as I like to say, I'm trying to screw the inscrutable. Don't examine that statement too carefully. It starts sounding naughty real quickly. I would have to say that, wouldn't I? You were doing okay till I added that last line. Anyway, let's go back to serious art. And I do wish someone had told me all this 50 years ago. Literally, when I was but a lad, when I was a student, a poor, struggling, confused, that part is true, confused art student. Well, I was confused largely because the school where I went was a lot like the school you went to if you majored in art anytime in the last 120 years. They were not trying to teach us how to paint. They were trying to teach us how to survive or thrive, or make sense in a world gone crazy, in an art world that had declared war on beauty. That's a slight exaggeration, but I mean, in some universities that's not an exaggeration at all. Slight exaggeration of mine, but only slight. Anyway, I think if someone had told me some of these things, I actually would have picked up on them. So good painting is the accidental byproduct of good process. So what you want to learn as a painter is not how to paint, so to speak. That's the first half of your art journey. You're learning how to paint stuff that looks like stuff. That's the first. We talked about that ad nauseum, haven't we, Jane? Main thing you want to learn is process. Process, process, process. Good paintings are the byproduct, and one could almost say the accidental byproduct of a good process. So our challenge is to learn better process. That's what I think. And I'm feeling strong about that at this moment, because I look at this canvas and I go, wow, I didn't make that happen. Where'd that come from? Does that make sense? All kinds of processes. That's what I'm talking about all the time. I mean, I can't even, I was trying to write a book. I hope I'll get back to it soon. It's on mothballs right now. I was trying to write a book called The Breakable Laws of Painting. All kinds of processes, or processes if you prefer. Processes about color, about texture, about brushstrokes, about values, about composition, and then start the whole list all over again. All those abstract elements of design. Those are other words for process. And again, it's as opposed to white knuckling, tongue painting, forcing. See, one of the downsides of any hyper-controlled painting process, like Paul Detlefsen, none of you ever heard of till tonight. One of the downside is when you're all done painting in a hyper-controlled manner, when you're finished, you can sit back, fold your arms, and smile with satisfaction at what is on the canvas, because you put it there. Now, I'm exaggerating slightly, but let me continue, not just speak caveats on top of caveats. And the painting can only be but so good because it all came out of your head. And your head is only but yay big. And I'm not talking really literally about the size of your head, but I am talking about the size of your intellect, your person, your being, and so on and so forth. Okay, so are you with me? So if you paint in the hyper-controlled manner, the best you can hope for, and this is the best, is that everything that's on the canvas is stuff that you put there on purpose, and everything on the canvas comes out of your head. Now, believe me, on the other hand, I could preach a whole sermon about how awesomely massive, frighteningly, infinitely crazy, glorious human beings are. Okay, so that's true too. But ending the temptation to give caveats to my caveats. That's the best you can hope for, is a painting that all comes out of your head. When, however, you paint on the edge of control, or one could even say, I think I'm done with whites, by the way. I'm cleaning up my brushes here and decide whether to pack them, go home. If, however, you paint not as an autocrat, not as a demigod, not as a controller of all things, but just as the gentle insinuator, as the gentle nudger of things, then you at least you open yourself up to two things happening on your canvas. Let's be honest. If you paint it in the gentle way, two things can happen. Number one, you can have a complete and unmitigated disaster. Your painting can turn out terrible because you had too many accidents. Okay, let's be honest. On the other hand, if you paint in such a way that there are a whole bunch of accidents, on your canvas, it's possible that something transcendent can appear on your canvas, something so far beyond what you would have made up if you had made it up. Does that make sense? So that's a big part of the reason why I personally, why I paint this way and why I advocate painting this way, is because painting this way, we have the chance of transcendence. And again, forgive me, I'm not saying this is like the most glorious transcendent painting of all time, nothing like that. But it's pretty good, I think. And there's all kinds of stuff. I mean, you could almost say everything on this canvas was just an accident. You saw the way if you watched me, you saw the way I painted it. Loose, crazy, throw, slap, dash, then making corrections, of course. And all the fun stuff is the accident. Like, I'll zoom in to one little spot here just for a minute. This little bit of like maroon burgundy stuff next to this little shock of orange. Of course, the white is more intentional and on purpose. So but it's this accidental little bit of purple here, pink, purple, burnt orange, bright orange, burgundy maroon, salmon. I have no idea what color this is. I mean, that's just completely nondescript. All that little stuff right there, all in yellow, all of that's an accident. Right? I think, can you see down this far? Yeah, purple, a little line of pink right there. Part of what led me out of first half of my painting journey, art journey, in the second half. First half, you learn to paint stuff that looks like stuff. Part of what led me out of that is when I discovered, literally, that when my brush did things that I didn't plan on, count on, produce, that I didn't do it on purpose. It was just an accident of the paint or my brush. And I went, wow, that's kind of cool. Does that make sense? And that was a big part of my process of getting to the second half. It's like, wow, the best painting happens. In fact, this was a part of I used to have this thing called the Mostly Immutable Laws of Painting, which you can tell is a preliminary to my book that I hope I'm going to write, called The Breakable Laws of Painting. But I discovered not enough people knew what the word immutable was, so my joke was lost on most of the population when I called it the Mostly Immutable Laws of Painting. That's supposed to be funny. Either they're immutable or they're not. But anyway, one of the mostly immutable laws of painting was that the best painting happens while you're trying hard to do something else. So that's what I discovered. All right, I think it's only 9:30. Doggone it. It'll take me 45 minutes to pack up. It'll be 10:15. Half an hour to get home. 10:45. And I won't mess up my system. I feel like I have to sleep till 9:30 tomorrow morning. More than that, this thing is sopping wet, and it's not going to. And it's not so much the cold tonight. It's the air's, I don't know, whatever, dew point or humidity, whatever it is making this dry really slowly. So in spite of the fact that I thought I would be here till midnight, I think that was just a hubris. Then again, it could be sloth, or as some English people like to say, sloth, that's making me want to pack up. So what is it? Am I lazy? Because I want to go home? exercising some common sense. Well, while I think about it, let's draw a little bit, eh? Yeah, man. Can you tell what I'm drawing? No. No, that way. Well, the whole street. The whole street.
The whole street?
Yeah.
Everything you see.
Yeah, of course I got here before the sun went down, so you know. It doesn't look like that. A couple thousand.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. That's the easy part. The hard part is selling them, getting somebody to buy them. It's a hard life. Yep, sometimes that happens. It's nice when it does.
Somebody was to buy that right now.
1,000. Because it's not done. But it looks good, even though it's not done. All right, y'all. I believe I'm going to pack up. It's been a good night. Thanks for watching. The natives are getting restless. Let me see what they're saying. You too, man. Bless you. What is your name?
Antonio.
Antonio. Yes, bless you, Antonio. Stay warm tonight. Thank you. Thank you. Good for you. Good for you. We always wish we could do what the other fella can do, don't we? You're welcome. Hey, Jane. Oh, I can turn off that static now. I'm gonna... Hello, Mareed. Thank you. Jane brings up a good point. And you're exactly correct, Gene, of course. Why is it that you don't need me to answer your question, but I'm musing with you. Yes, experience. Yes, experience. I think the only thing, the advantage of trying to communicate these things is, you know, which way are we aiming? And I think that's a real distinction. It is, and again, and Jane, you've mentioned this several times, it's not an accident that I spent many decades in the first half of life learning how to draw stuff, so I'm a good drawer. That helps, right? Although, again, you know, if you watched this whole night tonight, how many layers of drawing did it take for me to get before it's like, oh, phew, finally it's right. I mean, and even right is not, I don't mean absolutely correct, but it's right enough. I drew it 7 or 8 times, so there you go. I don't want to give the impression like oh yeah, it just fell off my brush and there it is. All right. It's been fun, and I'm talking, now I'm just blabbering, but Jane, I enjoyed your comments very much. Thank you, Susan. I will be careful. So I have to, the most difficult part about this is I have to leave all my equipment here. I actually, not all of it, I'll pack up my electronics in my backpack, and I have to walk about 3 blocks to get my car. But it really has been fun, as always, having you guys with me. I appreciate your company very much. And I hope to continue this painting manana. All right, this is goodbye. It really is. Quit dilly-dallying. Do you remember the... Speaking of dilly-dallying, do you remember the closing song on Casper the Friendly Ghost? When we were kids, at the end of the cartoon, they had this song that was like sappy, sad. It's like da 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 da. You sweet goodbye, goodbye. So sad we are to say goodbye. I'm not trying to sing it because I'm trying to stop short of having to sing for you. That's what this is. What does that look like? Oh good, you can't see anything, it's on a silhouette. Witness my sadness. Behold what tears bedew my cheeks. Okay, let's quit before I get any stupider. Bye.